Hey everybody, and welcome to another one of our Friday discovery sessions. It's awesome to see so many folks who keep coming back. I know there's always something interesting, always something new going on in the energy efficiency world. So lots of great content, lots of great things to find out. So thank you everyone for joining. While we wait for everybody, the Zoom queue for everyone to move through and join the call, feel free to take a moment to stretch, grab a glass of water. If it's your lunch break, grab some food, get cozy. It's always nice on the Friday afternoons to have some time to relax and hang out and learn something new with each other. So for folks who, maybe haven't met me yet, I'm a bit new to hosting our discovery sessions. My name's Kirstin, and I am the Community Engagement Manager here at Efficiency Canada. I'm joining our call from Ottawa, and that's the unceded territory of the Algonquin Nation. And for the format for today's event, like always, we're going to have our presenter share for about 20 minutes, and then we're going to open it up for questions. You can put your questions in the bottom of the screen in the Q&A box at any time during the presentation. You can vote questions up and down depending on if you, want to see them answered really early on. You can also, during the Q&A period, raise your hand and I can unmute you to ask your question out loud. Our one request is that we don't want any statements statements disguised, difficult word to say today, as questions, and no sales pitches. So those are the only rules, but we'd love to hear from you. Questions are always appreciated. And one other piece that we're going to be trying today is after the call, I'm going to put a link to our Discovery Hub in the chat. If you want to join us over there, you'll click that link, log in, just takes a couple seconds, and then click the Join Campfire button. And for 15 minutes at the end of the call, we're just going to have a casual sitting around the campfire chat and discussion to keep the conversation going from today. So if you want to get to know Luke a little bit better, if you have some questions that maybe didn't get answered, it's a great place to come and just spend a casual few minutes getting to know each other. So I will share that towards the end of our call. And so with that, I'm going to pass it over to our guest, which is Luke O'Connell. He's the Executive Director of SmartSaver, and he's going to be talking about some messaging that they use to increase engagement in low-income programs. So really, really interesting conversation today. So with that, Luke, I will pass it to you.
Thank you, Kirstin. It's great to be here. It's, esteemed company with all the folks I've watched on these webinars. I'm very, happy to be here and sharing what we're working on. And where we are is we're based in Toronto. I run the Omega Foundation, and we're a national charity that's been in existence since the early 90s, focused on poverty alleviation. And for the last decade, I've been running the SmartSaver program, which has been focused on helping low-income families access RESPs and the Canada Learning Bond. And we pivoted in 2019 to focus on opportunities to increase energy savings and savings through energy efficiency. We saw lots of parallels in terms of the inequity in this space between families that were upgrading their homes and those who weren't, and the gap that was growing in that space. So from there, we launched the Ecosaver program. And you're probably wondering, what is Ecosaver? So Ecosaver, again, is a program of the Omega Foundation, and we're focused on poverty alleviation and solving issues targeting social inequity. Since 2019, we've been evolving the idea of Ecosaver and researching different energy efficiency opportunities and examining the impact that energy efficiency can have in terms of building savings, building comfort, and improving resilience of modest income Canadians. So since 2021, our program has been able to launch a pilot, and we've been working with Enbridge Gas and IESO to improve take-up in their two programs, HWP program and EAP programs. Both of these are programs that are designed to support modest income savings or modest income households to save through energy efficiency through free upgrades. And we felt this was a fantastic opportunity to market to the same households that we've been reaching with SmartSaver over the years. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to share a bit of our approach and what we tried to learn in this space. We're new here, so I think we were trying to confirm some of the things that we were hearing from the space and develop some of our own learning, and then hopefully bring some experience that we had from our previous program to benefit the space. So we saw that this is a problem I think that we all understand very well, so I'll move quickly. But again, the cost of heating our homes and cooling our homes is increasing. And meanwhile, programs that have been very successful in reaching households are starting to have difficulty. And we saw a very similar issue with our program targeting education savings. There's always first adopters who are quick to take advantage of programs, and all they need is a helpful nudge in the right direction. But then there's others who are harder to reach and not tapping into the traditional pathways or media that informing families of these programs. So Ecosaver, again, taking from our learnings in our previous program, really tried to simplify the language and information around these programs and provide a one-stop hub to learn. If you on your browser now, you can visit the pilot website that we built. It's ecosaver.ca. You will notice that the form is no longer active because the pilot's closed, but the information you'll see is the same as was demonstrated in the pilot. What we wanted to do is not just test messaging and throw out messaging and see what happened. We wanted to take an approach that would show us some results that we could move forward with more effectively. So we started by conducting some focus groups. And in the past summer, we worked with 6 different focus groups across Ontario, urban, rural, homeowners, renters alike, and got a sense of what was the driving force behind them being motivated to take advantage of an EAP program. What would allow them to let someone into their home and deliver these benefits? And no surprise, and I have to put a caveat in this was done in August during a heat wave in Ontario. Both cost and comfort did come up, but it's obviously, it was a different conversation. We were hearing more around the use of fans versus air conditioning versus heating costs. So I am interested to repeat this during cold weather to see if we have the same results. We also thought that it would be best to stick with our knitting in terms of using a digital pathway. This would allow us to have some of our own data in terms of looking at the behavior of the participants that we were reaching. And in terms of who we were reaching out to, over the last year or so, our Smart Saver program, which is targeting similar income households, had 7,000 or so applicants in Ontario that had given us permission to follow up with other savings opportunities that could benefit them. So we had a pool of applicants that we could reach out to, and we could create the parameters to message to them. So we worked with an organization called the Behavioral Insights Team. They're a UK-based organization with an office in Toronto. And if you might recall, Sasha Tregobov did present basics of behavioral insights in energy efficiency in December on this same webinar. So we worked with them, and we developed an A/B plus cost, an A/B comfort test, or an A/B test focused on cost and comfort messaging. And we added an incentive A/B test to that as well. So what it resulted in was 4 different messaging cohorts. And I'll show you what this looks like in a moment, that received different messages based on comfort or cost, as well as with an incentive and without an incentive. With our experience with Smart Saver, we'd been working with incentives for a number of years to motivate families to sign up and access education savings grants. So we had some good pathways and tools to make that process simple. And we settled on the amount of $50 in the form of a Tim Hortons gift card as a universally accepted and attractive incentive. And so in total, when we messaged our families that were Smart Saver applicants, this was the site traffic that received. And it was fairly universal. You can see comfort did drive more traffic to the landing page than the cost messaging. And you can see within these 2 groups, we actually had the $50 gift card. This was the only place it was mentioned as a way to increase take up. So it did have a slight bump, as you can see. But really what was interesting was looking at the conversion. And when we look at conversion, all we know is the people who gave Smart Saver or Ecosaver a little bit of information, so email, contact information, and move them on the process. We don't have information in terms of where they've ended up, but we do know when we look at those landing page results, there is a very big increase in the number of families that completed the application based on the incentive. So back here, you can see, just to compare comfort with no incentive versus comfort with incentive, we had 134 landing visits from unique visitors versus 154. But when you add the incentive, we went from 26 applications to 89. So for a foundation like us, this is reaffirmation that a small gift, a small non-energy benefit can actually have quite a big impact in nudging people through this process. And this is where we're excited to continue going down this path. So I think the overarching key findings is that, participants were motivated by the incentive to complete the form. So, taking intent to action. A gift card to Tim Hortons is an impactful tool, or other types of non-energy benefits. Not surprising as well, when we wash out a little, just the margin of error that could occur, participants were motivated by both comfort and cost messaging. So I think it's important to stick with that. It is a little bit it's not quite clear enough, but there is regional participation differences that we did notice. So, we were seeing more participation and higher participation rates in Eastern and Northern Ontario, for instance, than Southern and Southwestern Ontario. And again, evidence out of the US and other types of programs, continue to sort of add on that the impact of non-energy benefits and incentives are quite attractive to families to move through these processes. So where we're excited to go with this is we're just about to roll out now a second pilot with our friends in PowerMe, who you should be very familiar with, in British Columbia. I'm going to keep this pretty high level and vague here because we're going to want to share the results together. But I think we are interested in looking at what happens when you work with a service delivery agent to move people through the process in a more gradual process. And what I mean by that is there a staged incentive pathway that could really help drive completion. So an incentive up front, and then working with the service delivery agent to distribute an incentive on the back end. So this is ongoing, and hopefully we start to develop some learnings from across Canada that we can share and use to increase take up. Because I think where we sit with this is we don't own the program, we don't run the program, but we want to help these programs reach more families. And those are some universal learnings that could be helpful across the spectrum of programs in Canada. So I'm going to stop there. It looks like we have a few questions in the chat, but that's my information. Ecosaver website's there to check out. And I thank you for listening to what I had to say today.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Luke. And I do see, so there are some great questions in the chat. If you can move them over to the Q&A, it just makes it a little bit easier to make sure that I am getting to all of the questions. And for everyone in our audience, now is your chance to find out more details, get a little bit more information. So you can raise your hand. I'll keep an eye out for those, so don't be shy. And we also have the Q&A box, which is at the bottom of your screen. And I do see a question that's in there now. So Luke, in your background research, did you find any other major variables or factors that you wanted to consider beyond comfort and incentives? And did you consider those other variables in this project?
So it's a good question. We were a bit constrained by the sample size we were working with, in the sense that we were working with our applicant pool of SmartSaver families. So I think we had to be careful to stick with what we thought would be the big drivers. But I think with a digital pathway, with the ability to create multiple stage sites, and I can quickly show you, like on the back end, we had all of these were unique websites, and they're basically mirrors of each other with slight differences. And I think that gives you an interesting opportunity to iterate this a number of times and test different tools and messaging.
Awesome. Yeah, it's interesting how such a really slight difference can have such a big difference in the outcomes there.
One, it's interesting too, Kirstin. We couldn't have a starburst saying $50 gift card like on this email and this website, because our behavioral insights friend said that would skew people to just reacting on the gift card. Really, we were looking at like combining these things together and sort of trying to make it seem like a seamless sort of.
Awesome. And a question that I had actually was, is the $50 gift card for providing that initial information, or would they get it when they actually, took part in the program?
It was simply a gift for, moving along the process. Where families went from Ecosaver was to move over to a service delivery agent. In Ontario, as you know, there have been different agents in different regions. So that was a handoff that was created. Unfortunately, as you know too, there's been a change in the service delivery agent structure in the province. So that did affect our ability to drill a bit deeper. But I think going forward, we are going to want to make sure that how many of these families are completing the process. Another issue is time, in the sense that it's not a one-stop process. This is something we're learning too. We came from a space where the RESP, so we were helping low-income families open the RESP with a bank or credit union and access a government grant. It was a one-time interaction. These are very different programs, so it does take a bit of time for families to filter through them. but we would like to understand, what those benefits are at the end of the day that they're receiving.
Awesome. And I think, so this next question, I think you've mentioned you maybe don't have this data yet, but do you know how many of those who filled out the form for the incentive actually go on to complete upgrades through the program?
Unfortunately, I don't have a number to say today. The pilot just concluded in January, so we're still trying to watch it move through. But I think that's a great question. It actually revealed an interesting ability of these tools, and that it's a die test, because we're able to see who's coming in at the beginning, and then we're able to hopefully watch where they end up and where they get snagged along the way. And I think that's just as interesting to us. Like, we're built as a program that enjoys failure as much as success, because if you figure out what's stopping people, you could it gets easier to fix it. And I think if we're able to determine at some point during the research and the evaluation process here that, at the data upload phase, when you have to scan or take a picture of your notice of assessment and upload it, or your property tax bill, like, is that where we're losing 30% of people? Because there might be a technological or simple fix to that gets a lot more people through. So I think we're in the early days of understanding, whether we're helping more people convert, and then hopefully the information we're sharing can lead to changes in the system that lead to higher conversions. Because nothing's worse than getting a family excited for these programs and then getting bogged down in the paperwork and bureaucracy. We've seen that with the RESP, and we saw that as, once they get turned off, they're never going to come back to these programs. So let's keep it positive and try to help them through. And there's more and more talk around these energy concierge tools. We're seeing great things like My Energy Expert and different things that are like really automated, but they treat everyone the same. And whether you're high income or low income, or renting or owning, you're able to get a clear answer in terms of what you could benefit from, and hopefully, walk through that door to take advantage of it.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great to hear that, there is so much data that comes from quote unquote failures, right? Where it didn't work, that's where the really useful data comes in. So it's awesome to hear that information is going to be used and to keep working on this.
Mm-hmm.
So another question here about the program. So can you further explain, so the programs that they're signing up for, what does it include? Do you know what the next steps are after they've filled out this initial data gathering, and what is it that families get out of it when they sign up?
Great question. So I'm going to do my best. We are not the program owners, and these things do change, so I apologize. But we have two things. We have the Enbridge home winterproofing program, and we have the energy assistance program offered by IESO. And IESO offers a two-stream program. If you're under a certain income threshold, which is around the $70,000 household income for a household of 3 or 4, you can receive a comprehensive evaluation and potential upgrades to your, appliances, and if you're an electrically heated home, insulation and other upgrades. If there's also a little pocket that they're having a real hard time reaching, which is the folks who are earning between 70 and 80,000, and those households would be eligible for energy kits, energy efficiency kits. So your faucet aerators, your light bulbs, the simple DIY type kits. So there was a double offering there, and then the Enbridge program is a more comprehensive program that looks at the the building, the type, the size, and evaluates the upgrades you could receive. So really we're talking as little as a energy efficiency kit, to comprehensive upgrades to the home worth thousands of dollars. And I think where we get excited is the prospect of tying in things like the Green Homes Grant, and potentially the CMHC, if we get it, the $40,000 zero interest financing, because I think that's when we can start to really look at meaningful energy savings beyond just what can be offered by these excellent free programs.
Yeah, definitely. And so a question in a similar vein, can you repeat the difference between Ecosaver and Smart Saver?
Sure. So Omega Foundation is the umbrella. And under the Omega Foundation umbrella, we run these two projects. So Smart Saver we launched in 2010. And Smart Saver, again, helps families access RESPs to take advantage of a benefit called the Canada Learning Bond. And we work with all 5 major banks, as well as groups like Van City, Meridian Credit Union, and the Atlantic Credit Union Association, to connect families with free RESPs to access the benefit of the Canada Learning Bond. And then Ecosaver was our pivot, as we increasingly became concerned with one, the environment, and two, the growing social inequity that this issue was causing. And we felt that with excellent off-the-shelf programs like the ISO and Enbridge programs, Ecosaver could have a similar role to these types of benefits that the Smart Saver program had to the RESP and Canada Learning Bond.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for explaining that. And then two questions related specifically to the incentive and how you chose, that exact incentive. So the one question is, how did you choose the Tim Hortons gift card, and why not something like Amazon or a different, place that the gift card is from? And the second question is, why $50? Why not a different value, or a $5 or $100? Like, how did you specifically choose that incentive?
It's a great question. So we've had like a 3 to 4 year love-hate relationship with incentives and gift cards, and we've worked with services. There's a service called Everything Card. It's a Montreal-based company where they act as a clearinghouse for a range of gift cards. So we've tried things like giving people access to their choice of gift cards. So choose from 80 different vendors and pick. And we found that actually led to a lower take-up rate of those gift cards just by adding that one more layer of choice. The other thing we looked at is trying to keep it as a universal thing that every person can benefit. So, whether it's a Canadian Tire gift card, not everyone's necessarily going to need something from Canadian Tire, whereas like everyone seems to like to go out for a coffee or a donut. And when we looked at, the regional representation, there are Tim Hortons in all communities. Where we're looking next, they have changed rules around prepaid Visas and MasterCards. We had examined those in the past, but initially those products had quite high fees to activate, and you could lose balance if you weren't using the cards. We understand that those rules have changed to make it harder for the cards to lose value, and I think we would explore something universal like that if possible. And the way we are doing this is, our charitable mandate is to alleviate poverty. We have an opinion that the families who are eligible for these programs are experiencing poverty, and we're offering this as a gift in kind. So the other thing to think about is the threshold. The number you have to work with is $0 to $500. Up to $500 is considered a gift, and after that it would be considered income. So we have played with $500 incentives, and it pains me to say this. We had one person receive a $500 incentive who never cashed his check. So again, simplifying it, keeping it believable, I think is important. And when we talk to our behavioral insights friends, and we talk to everyone, when we think about what motivates people, $50 just really felt like something meaningful. And I think where we will dive deeper going forward is trying to variate the incentive amounts. What's the smallest amount we could incentivize to increase participation, because that does allow us to reach more people and spread our budget further.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about the geography aspect of it, but what stores are there that you can find all across Ontario? And definitely my mom drinks probably 6 or 7 coffees a day, and she could tell you there's always a Tim Hortons within a 5-minute drive. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then there was a follow-up question on that. So many people are questioning the amount of the incentive or which location it's from, but as someone's wondering, why didn't you just deploy an incentive towards energy conservation programs? So say, $50 off insulation or something along those lines.
That's a good question. And I think where we were coming from this is that adding more money on top of energy efficiency money, which already wasn't motivating them to participate, was worthwhile for us to explore whether we could trigger the energy efficiency money for previous non-participants. And when we look at some of the programs that are out there, like the PACE financing programs, there is an attractiveness to that, in that the money some of those funds can be used for non-energy projects within the home. So I think that was the motivating factor. And again, just simplicity, keeping it with one provider, like removing the choice of a gift card. We have seen in past people not making the choice and never claiming their gift card, whereas with the process we chose now, the email is the gift card, and that's easily redeemable.
Yeah, definitely. I know when we're putting things together, we find every single time you're asking for one additional step, you're going to lose somebody. One more click, one more form to fill out, you're always going to lose someone along the way.
And I will mention one thing I'm very interested in exploring, especially around like if we want to talk tying an energy efficiency incentive. what if we were able to incentivize people with a non-energy benefit, like a Tim Hortons gift card or a Shoppers Drug Mart gift card or a grocery gift card up front? And what if when they completed, we provided them an incentive with a bill credit? Or like, is there a way to combine these? And that's something I'd love to work on.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the next steps of the project and the data that comes from those. Our last two questions are, I think they're a little bit more related to the program itself rather than the incentive. So you might not be able to answer these fully, but they're both related to combining the programs with loan type programs. So the first one is, have you thought about combining incentives with a pay style program? And the second is, would the Omega Foundation be willing to work with banks to offer the EcoMark loan program previously offered by Ontario Hydro? So, thoughts about loans and their role in these programs.
So for question one from Sherry, I'm just looking at this so I can get this clear in my head what I'm answering. I have heard about that, and I don't have enough knowledge to speak on it, but I think this is the role we're trying to play. We're trying to play a complementary voice to the existing programs to make it seem more holistic and community based. And I'm really excited to be working with Empower Me in our next pilot to have more vision in terms of the pathway that these families are going through. Sherry, you raised your hand, so you might have a follow-up to that one, or maybe not. And David, I would love to hear more about the EcoMark loan. I think that we've spoken to people in sustainable finance, and there's obviously interest to enter the space. So let's speak.
And I'm just going to unmute Sherry here. So you should have the option there to unmute your microphone and keep that convo going.
Okay, yeah, thanks for that information. I mean, there's a real push for pay style programs, especially with the FCM funding that's available for municipalities currently. And so, we worked with Empower Me. I don't want to take over the conversation, and maybe I'll reach out separately, but we'd really interested in seeing what the results from the BC pilot, and also I'll touch base with you outside of this conversation, but I think that those are really cool things, and there's a real opportunity there to work with pay style programs to reach out to low income.
I love it, and I think that's why we're sharing this. I'd love to speak with anyone who's interested in the role we're trying to play, and let us know what they're doing, and we like to take a stakeholder approach and take a collaborative approach to solving these issues. So
yeah, for sure. I'm here in Alberta, so if you need a volunteer for pilots in Alberta, I will shoot you an email.
I'll put out that I got rid of it. There's the email there. I'll get that out of the way. So yeah, feel free to email me, and I'd love to chat. And then Daniela, so Ecosaver is a public foundation, or Omega Foundation is a public foundation. So, we've been running our programs for the last decade, and we fundraise to do that. We're not receiving any money or funding from our program partners, and we have an agreement that there's no cost borne by ratepayers to participate either. So it's really a net benefit in the sense that we're getting a little bit of insight and access to these programs, but we're paying for the supports that are driving take up in them. So that we're playing our role, and we see the value out of the programs themselves as enough to motivate us to be in this space. We don't need money to promote those programs on their behalf.
Awesome. And if anyone didn't see that question in the chat, I was just wondering how Ecosaver and the upgrade programs are funded. And I think, that closes out our questions that are in the Q&A box right now, but in line with what Sherry was saying, and if anyone else has some further conversations they want to continue, we will be hopping over to the Discovery Hub shortly, and that's a great place to keep some of these more in-depth conversations going with a bit of a smaller group sitting around our virtual campfire. I think that's a great way to spend a Friday afternoon. So I'm going to put the link in the chat there. So we'll be heading over there in just a few minutes, unless there's any other questions that come up in the Q&A box in the next couple seconds. But I do want to just close it out by saying thank you everyone for joining today, for the great questions. It was really interesting to see something with such clear data that we can all learn from. So that's awesome to see. And yeah, thank you so much, Luke, for sharing your time and your insights. And yeah, we'll close it out there and see everyone hopefully around the campfire in just a few minutes. Thanks,
Kirstin. Apologies for the poor lighting. I'll work on that for next time.
It's mysterious, it's a vibe.
It's true. Anonymous. Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, take care, everybody.
Thank you.